Good evening, viewers. Welcome to another edition of Community Corner here on Axe Television Network. It's always a pleasure to be in your company every evening, Thursday afternoons between the hours of 6 to 6:30. On today's program, we're going to be talking to the councillor for the Pleasantville community. You know, from time to time when we vote in councillors and they are not working, you always hear an uproar, you always hear what they are not doing. But when councillors are actually doing a good job in the community, no one says anything and it's not brought to the forefront. I've invited Councillor Robert Parris to share this community corner with us, to tell us about some of the initiatives that's happening in Pleasantville. Councillor, it's a pleasure and welcome to Axe
Once
25.
Once again.
Yes. Now, as I said in the opening, when we vote in councillors and they are not working,
right,
we have a lot of things to say. The drains are not clean, yards are dwelling places are in an uproar, and we condemn to the fullest.
Yeah.
But when they are working, you hardly hear anybody say anything.
Yeah.
Now, I have been following you for some time now, and you are doing a tremendous job in this community.
Thank you very
right?
much.
I want you now to
it.
tell us and tell the viewers of some of the initiatives you have implemented since returning to office.
Well, thank you for the opportunity once again. I know that when I came back into my second term, one of the first television interviews I did was with you.
Yes, and Councillor
Councillor Randall Donowa.
Yeah.
And it was important for me to be returned to office and to be re-elected, as I told you then, because I would have started projects from the first time, from my first term, and it would have continued into the second term, and they would have been completed now. We've done a number of things in the Pleasantville area, but I must give kudos to my mentors, people who are behind the scenes, obviously. I can't live down Daddy, you would know that. Yeah, my father was a former councillor, but persons like my godfather, Mr. Manning, Mrs. Manning, who is one of my advisors, and I think that's a good advisor to have as a former local government minister.
Very, very so, yeah.
Right? So there was a sustainable plan that was enacted in 2009, and she would call me very often and she would tell me, Robert, stick to the plan, and that is exactly what I did. Now, you mentioned before, it is councillors don't get the credit, or the public has a perception that councillors aren't working.
Yeah.
But to be very honest with you and to be fair, George, the system is not working. If you create a system whereby people understand the rigors of what a councillor can or cannot do, then you would understand.
Yes, so true.
You would understand the shortcomings. And understanding that, what I did was I just simply chose certain things to be able to. I'm not a minister. I'm a councillor. I'm someone that everyone is supposed to come to. Stay on the ground, stay humble. I would have started small projects in order to empower the persons on the ground, empower the man on the ground. So we did certain things like a community garden. The idea of the community garden, right? And yesterday it was named after Mr. Glenn Jemmott, who lives in the community. He's alive and is in the community, and it was named after Mr. Jemmott. And the reason why is you have a green area, an open area that generally people would have dumped. They would have done all kinds of different things. And in convincing the city to invest in a garden, it serves two purposes. One, to beautify, and two, to be able to feed ourselves, right? And you see, that type of thinking is something that it's been inculcated in me from ever since I was a little boy, right? Always being able to think out the box and not taking no for an answer. So those, I think, in my opinion, is what led me to a certain bit of success as a councillor, right?
So let's get back into the communities, and let's start, because people need to understand, you know, as you said, what a councillor could do and what you cannot do. What are some of your major obstacles or hindrances that prevent you Because I'm sure that when you were re-elected, you had a plan in mind what you will want to accomplish in Pleasantville.
Yes.
Right? But I'm sure along the way, there are hindrances, there are obstacles that is preventing you. What are some of the challenges that you face, to get, your job done to the fullest?
Well, to be very honest, again, it goes back to the deficiencies in the local government system. The local government system, well, the Act of 1990, right? We haven't seen much of an evolution from then to now in order to give councillors that power. One of the things that people don't understand is San Fernando was made a city in 1988. And the problem is we have not extended the boundaries were extended to Marabella and Laramine, right? But the thing is, we still have the same workforce that we did when we were a borough. And that poses a lot of challenges for us as councillors, right? In order to get certain works done. What people have to realize is the Ministry of Local Government, they are our parent body. They get our money from the central government, right? Through the central bank. And that allocation has to be shared amongst the different municipalities. And when we, as councillors, get our allocation, it is split amongst 9 people in San Fernando. And it really isn't that much. Because one of the first expenses that we have to cover is the wages, paying people. And thereafter, they start to budget towards recurrent expenditure, which are the projects that maintain the parks, the playfields. It's not that large. And you would hear people who don't understand say all kinds of things. Now in politics, you have to have thick skin. Unfortunately, my skin is still developing. So I have to have good support and good people behind me because it shouldn't affect you, but I'm saying it does affect you because you're a human being. Right? So when you're doing your best and you're putting your all out into what you're doing and you hear some negative comments, right? It disturbs you. It disturbs you. So it's either you get up and continue doing, right? My strength comes from the Lord, to be very honest with you, right? I keep on praying for whatever it is that I can get and how God is guiding me, right? That is my strength. That is it. In terms of the local government system, people really don't understand the challenges that we have.
Now, share with us some of the projects that that has been implemented, which stands out as a beacon in the community of Pleasantville.
Well, today I'm going to take you on a little small tour, right? In 2013, we started the Wall of Fame, the Pleasantville Wall of Fame project. Now, you would understand because of the different socioeconomic backgrounds throughout the city, right? And Pleasantville has developed over a number of years. We, in 2013, in the city of San Fernando, was developing a gang problem. And I wasn't blind to it because as a representative, as a councillor, you have to be on the ground. And we noticed that with the, it was the bus shelter, right? Let me give you a little history quick. The bus shelter was where, before we had offices for the workers in San Fernando, before we had that, all of the workers would be gathered under that bus shelter there, and they would be bussed off to the different electoral districts to do work. So it is as a landmark. So over a number of years, you would see it just became really nasty. People would stick up posters on it, people would urinate there, and I started to notice gang symbols there. So I went to the then mayor, Marlene Coudray, and I convinced her that this thing was going to escalate in Pleasantville. And she gave me then $15,000 and said, let me see what you could do with that. So what we did at the time was we hired 2 university artists and we cleaned up the area. I came up myself with members of the community and we power washed it. And we painted a mural of people who served our community. When you see it, it really is, it is a landmark now. And from there, a resident came to me and said, Councillor, good job, but you have to change the roof. How you have people on that bus shelter and the bus shelter looking like that? Thought about it and I said, okay, let me try my hand at this again. And I went back this term in council, and I convinced them we have to spend more money on this. This is it's part of our institution. And we spent upwards, and this is a combined effort, maybe close to around $80,000 refurbishing it, because we reinforced it with steel and we terrazzo the floor. We put a teak bench. So what you have there now is something that will last us for many years to come. Right now we're constructing a sidewalk going to it. There is the sidewalk also has for the disabled to come up, modernizing the way the people in our community think. Right, so that was one of the marquee projects. The other project, again, I think I alluded to it before, was the Glen Jemmott Community Park. It is a collaboration between the members of the community and the city corporation to maintain a green area. The intent of it is to create a serene area whereby people can come, they can relax, can take pictures. It's a beautiful area. And as well as I've been approached by the Ministry of Agriculture. They have some people through the university that want to do a grow box project there as well, right? Some of the other projects, well, obviously you have your recurrent expenditure, big projects, and let me tell you something, some of these projects, I'm telling you, it's only by the grace of God that I was able to accomplish it, because people say, you just a councillor, you can't do that. And you would remember in my first term, that is when the MP for San Fernando East got sick. And I, as councillor for the area, there would have been only 2 councillors, myself and Councillor Joseph. And I was elected to assist Mr. Manning in that time. So my hands were stretched. I would leave this office sometimes, maybe 12 o'clock at night. And I think it was in preparation for what I'm experiencing now, right? So, you know, we'd have infrastructural projects like we got the first time in Pleasantville, we got a developmental project when the political party that I'm a part of was in opposition, and you don't get that. Unfortunately, in our political system, it doesn't allow for that. And it was really because of the network and my ability to lobby. The then government, they spent $1 million in refurbishing a drain, the main drain in Pleasantville, phase 1, right? That was collapsing. It would have actually pulled the land of this very set institution that we are, the Village Plaza. It would have pulled the car park down. So we convinced the government that this was a project that should be undertaken, as well as, and I don't know where I get the strength from, but I'm brave. I was born brave. And there were 2 bridges that were done as well. One on Flamingo Crescent, right? I think the final cost there would have been $700,000. And there was one done on Prince Albert Street similarly, right? And these are projects that had to be done because the infrastructure in Pleasantville is the second oldest housing development in the country. The infrastructure, right? It was time for it to be maintained. It was time for these things to be refurbished. And those are just some small key things, right? I was also able to honor the first councillor when Pleasantville became a city, and that would have been Miss Shirley Nichols. We named the Geranium Crescent basketball court after her. So it is now known as the Shirley Nichols Basketball Court. Thereafter, early this term, I renamed Flamboyant Crescent Park. I named it after Mr. Vernon Lioto. And Mr. Vernon Lioto was the very first councillor in Pleasantville, local government councillor. And, you know, I'm not naming these things after people I don't know. Obviously, my father was in politics. Obviously, through my family connection, I'm 38 years old. I would have grown. So these people would have been people that know me and would have invested into me. So it was indeed it was a good opportunity and a pleasure in being able to honor these people and to educate the future generations to come of the contribution that these individuals, these community activists, because before you get into politics, you should really love, on this level, you should love your community.
Definitely, yeah. Looking back now at Pleasantville then, you know, to now, and as you reflect on your term, when your time has come, because there's going to be a time when, you know, you might continue as well as you might not continue.
Yeah.
Where would you like to see Pleasantville stand as a community?
I would say this much. This job is a labor of love. I really love my community. And I will not walk away yet, because I believe that my job is not done. But when that time does come, I would like someone with the same passion as I have for developing Pleasantville. Pleasantville has a lot of potential. The people in Pleasantville are unique, right? And really and truly, I take pleasure, right, in being able to empower some of the young people who they look up to me, because I am able to employ some people who, in the eyes of some, may be unemployable, right? They look up to me. And I would like to see one of them look at what I have done and take up the mantle and continue. That is what I would like.
Now, what about the area of crime in Pleasantville? There, as you said, some time back, you were hearing about gangs and you were hearing about crime. Now, yes, there is crime, but Pleasantville has gone a bit silent in the sense of the crime that we used to hear coming out of Pleasantville some years ago.
Okay.
What is your plan to because everybody has a part to play in curtailing crime. As a councillor, have you put anything in place to try to lower it or eliminate it altogether?
The first thing what we need to remember is this, right? As a councillor, you need to have your finger on the pulse of everything. Everybody you represent. So you represent the good, the bad, and the indifferent. And you have to be able to gain their respect and understand them. And as I see it, employment is a problem amongst the young people. If the young people are unemployed, they become frustrated. And once they're frustrated, they become a problem to everybody. So what we do is, even though that the demand is very high for employment in the community, I try my very best to be able to keep the young people out of trouble by keeping them employed, as well as we would have implemented different community projects. I remember a couple of years back, through the NGO that I'm associated with, we did a fitness project, Zumba, right? And I thank the people that was associated with that. They did a lot of hard work. I didn't do it on my own, I must admit. I guided, but they were the ones behind it. Then we have the young people, for instance, who are DJs, who are, you know, you have to keep your pulse, your ears to the ground and your hand on the pulse of things. So, you know, the young people would have like we